All right, so this week we're going to look at the New Deal that FDR is going to enact in 1933 to through 1939. We're going to look at programs starting tomorrow, but today I just want to kind of get an overview of what the New Deal is. On Thursday and Friday, we'll look at kind of the legacy of the New Deal during this time. So first of all, what is the New Deal? The New Deal is just a series of programs and projects, reforms and regulations that FDR is going to try to get the United States out of the Great Depression. It occurs from 1933 to 1939, and it's very controversial at the time. And we're going to see that a lot of them are going to be even deemed unconstitutional. But again, it's all FDR's plan to really get the nation out of the Great Depression. Now, the term New Deal actually comes from a speech that he made at the Democratic Party's nomination for president. He says, I pledge myself to a new deal for the American people. So the New Deal is just a name that he kind of came up with, that he kind of ran with. It wasn't supposed to be called the New Deal, but just how it kind of works. And really, there was two New Deals that we're going to look at. The first New Deal just occurs really within a year's time. And really, the majority of it's going to happen within the first 100 days. The new administration's first objective was obviously to get people out of the unemployment lines. All right? Unemployment at this time in 1932 and 1933 had reached the highest levels the United States has ever seen, even more than today's terms. So they were going to look at trying to revitalize the country's business classes. They're trying to revitalize agriculture communities. So they're going to try to figure out ways to get people back to work, get money into people's hands, and to get the banks back to working. Like I said, most of this is going to happen in the first 100 days. And it's really odd because presidents are really judged on their first 100 days now. FDR is the epitome of getting something done right after he became president. He passed 13 major laws during the first 100 days of him being within the office. But there was also a second New Deal. The second New Deal really focused on increasing protections for workers and really building a long-lasting financial security for Americans so that we never have a Great Depression ever again. Now, we say that he is going to try to change things, but a lot of the stuff that you are going to see that he does during the Second New Deal is still around today, and they still work. You think of Social Security for old people. Again, old people is probably not the best way of saying that, but for people over the age of 65 years old, that is a program that's created within the Second New Deal that, again, is basically protecting Americans from going into poverty when basically they're not able to work as much as they were when they were younger. So the Second New Deal really focuses on working those, increasing protections. It also has some parts of getting people back to work and revitalizing farming as well. Now, we can really break down into FDR's New Deal's programs into 3 Rs. Now, some of them, again, we can kind of put them all into the 3 Rs, but I really want to talk about this because your assignment for tomorrow, you're going to have to try to tell me which R the program goes into. So the 3 Rs are relief, recovery, and reform. Relief basically means immediate action taken to halt the economy's deterioration. This is basically getting money into people's hands, getting banks back to being running. So instant relief for people. The second one is recovery, basically temporary programs to start the flow of consumer demand, or basically creating jobs. Create jobs for Americans so that they can start getting paychecks, so that they can start spending those paychecks at businesses around the country. And the last one is reform. And this is what the Second New Deal really talks about more. Permanent programs to avoid another Great Depression and basically to ensure citizens against economic disasters. So if there is a disaster that happens, so that we have programs within the United States to make sure that Americans don't go hungry, that they don't lose their houses and all that stuff. And guess what? You guys are seeing a lot of that happening today. If you pay attention to the news and you look at the reforms that are happening, you're going to see a lot of the same similar things are happening in today's terms today's pandemic that were happening during the Great Depression. So make sure you know these 3 R's: relief, recovery, reform. Relief is immediate action, getting money into people's hands. Recovery is getting jobs to people. And reform is to make sure that this Great Depression never happens again. Now, one of the things that did happen during this time, though, was certain New Deal programs were declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. And again, FDR doesn't take this very well. We see that the federal government's authority to regulate industry and undertake social reform is going to be called into question. We see the role of these federal governments is really going to expand at this time. Now, one of the remedies of FDR is he tries to pack the court. And this is probably his biggest folly of his presidency at this time. On February 5th of 1937, Roosevelt announced a controversial plan to expand the Supreme Court from 9 judges to 15 judges. Now, he says to make it more efficient. Really, what he was trying to do was he was trying to get 6 more liberal judges onto the Supreme Court so that he could get all his New Deal programs done. Now, tomorrow, you guys are going to be looking at some of the New Deal programs. You're going to get 2 days to work on it. I've given you the websites and all that stuff, but you will look at each program and what they did for them and where they fall into the 3 R's. You guys hopefully stay happy and healthy. And if you guys get any questions, please email me and talk to me, and we can figure this out. See you guys.